All right, it's another talking video. I just want to do one more talking video. It is now 4 weeks since I biked across America. Today would have been day 81. And here's me, hello. Okay, and as you can see, we got hit with a lot of snow. Today is April 30th, 2017. And yesterday it was just snowing all day. They closed the interstate here, and I've got some snow on the hood, and it's kind of coming up on the windshield, so I got my wipers going. But anyway, I promise to be safe. I just want to talk a little bit about a couple of things. Today would have been day 81, first of all, I'm definitely adjusting back to normal life. You know, that's easy. I'm gaining weight again. I'm kind of sick of biking, so I haven't been biking much. It's just boring to bike around town when you just know you're just gonna bike in a circle. It's way more exciting when you're just going in a line, and every day you're just going and you can see the distance tangibly, as opposed to just, you know, biking in a circle for 10-20 miles. Plus, I don't really have people to ride with where I live right now, so that's really pretty, isn't it? All right, so there are two things I wanted to talk about, and again, I promise I'll watch the road here. I'm on cruise control, but one is it's like I talked to Ron, who biked across America himself. I met him on day 3. It was in El Centro that I met him, and there's a picture of him on my journal. And we actually talked about 2 weeks ago on the phone, and just reconnected. And, you know, did you make it? Yes. Did you make it? Yes. And just told a couple of stories. And he was saying, here's the thing about biking across America. During the trip, and this is at least for me and for Ron, and I think it's for many cyclists, maybe not all, but there was this push, this pressure to pack on the miles, to go, you know. And you know, right now I'm in the other world of just living in the world, thinking about biking across America. And I'm like, oh man, if you bike across America, take your time. There's no rush, there's no ego, or, you know what I mean? Go look at the sights, go meet people, you know. And I think when I was biking, there's still this part of me that wanted to get good mileage. I wanted to feel good about my ride. I wanted to feel like, hey, I can still go pretty far, and, you know, look how far I've come. And for me, I was posting updates on Facebook every day, and I wanted to report, as I did every day, I wanted to report my mileage and kind of be proud. Like, yeah, I went 85 miles, I went 76, I went 112, you know? It's not as fun, it doesn't feel good when you say, I biked 36 miles today, you know? So, but there's still that tension, and I don't know how to make sense of it, because I know on my trip, I did want to have good mileage, but for my pride's sake. But also, I didn't have tons of money, you know? So that was another thing. And then thirdly, definitely by the time I got to Central Texas, there was a feeling like, okay, I'm ready to be done. Let's go. So that's the one thing, is I haven't figured out that tension of, right now as I sit here driving this car and becoming more and more of a lazy person, I think, oh, if I ever go cross country a 4th time, I will take my time. I might take multiple days off, or only bike 20 miles, who cares? You know, that versus when you're on the road and it's like, let's go, you know? I want to go. Especially when you're in Mississippi or just some boring town on the plains, and it's like, all right, this is boring. Like, let's move on to wherever I want to go that's more interesting. So, and there's lots of parts of the country where you'll just be barraged with kind of boredom and, oh, you know, here's another little dinky town. Oh, I'll just stop in a boring convenience store. Oh, I'll stop and eat at this boring little dive restaurant and stay in this boring motel. And that sounds cynical, but anyway, so there's that whole tension. I have thought if I do Bike Across America a 4th time, that, now again, I'm thinking from my perspective of out here in the world, and some nice little buttes and small mountains out there. I was thinking I'll go, I still love San Diego in the Southwest. Go San Diego to probably Abilene, Texas, somewhere in Texas. I've got friends and connections in Abilene that they're really good to me there. But then from Abilene, just go radically, you know, take like 2 to 3 days off in Abilene, rest, and then say, okay, part 2 is gonna be Abilene and go straight north to Minnesota. Just go straight north, you know? And then, you know, when I get to Minnesota, do the same thing. Take, you know, 2 to 3 days off or something, just rest. And then say, okay, the 3rd leg is Minnesota, and go across the Northeast, maybe stop in, you know, New York or Connecticut, somewhere along the coast or something like that. I grew up in New Jersey. I don't like New Jersey at all, and I've lived in Colorado for 20 years, but that is where I'm from. So I could finish in New Jersey, something like that. So anyway, it would be a crazy zigzag kind of thing. And, but again, I would have to have the money and the resources to do it, the time off, or, you know, somehow I'd have to work out the time and money issues. And I know that when I'm on the road, there would be a temptation, if I did that kind of route, I'd get to Abilene and I'd be like, oh, forget about Minnesota. I'm just gonna do the same kind of route and hit Florida and be done. So anyway, so that's the one thing. And then number 2, the second main point, as I kind of think about the trip, is for me, again, I'm working on my journal. It took me 53 days to go across the country. Each day I have photos and videos, and I'm putting them online on my webpage. And I'll make sure the link is down below. And anyone who knows me knows about my webpage, bicycletrip.net, and the pictures that are already up there. Anyway, so I'm working today. I'm actually headed to a coffee shop in Walsenburg to work on day 13. I got the pictures up. I just have to write out the captions, and sometimes there's a lot of writing to be done because I try to be detailed about memories that I want to remember for, you know, for the rest of my life. So anyway, so I'm going through all my pictures, and it's like day to day, each day right now, I can only get about 1 day done in my journal. So yesterday I was working on 12, the day before 11, and now I'm working on 13. 13 was when I was in Duncan, Arizona. And anyway, it's kind of surreal. And I know that this is for any life experience. It's not just biking across America. But there's that feeling like, was my bike trip just one big fairy tale? You know? Because I look at some of the pictures and I remember the good days. I remember the bad days. I remember when I got the flat and I had a hitchhike. That was on day 15, that's coming. And it's like, it's almost two-dimensional now. It feels like this fairy tale. And when you're in it, you know, my gosh, it's different. It's just different when you're going through it. There's all these emotions. You got all these fears and like longings, and you're tired, all that. And you have lots of laughter too sometimes. and you share it with people, and it's just amazing and kind of magical. But then when I'm looking at my laptop, here, it's like I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at the pictures, and I remember being a character in the fairy tale and doing it. But now I'm just looking at this laptop with these pictures, and I remember everything, and it feels real, like I really went through it, but it increasingly feels like this distant fairy tale. And it's hard to bike across America. You know, you'll be biking on roads like this, like a boring interstate, and it's cold today, you know? Actually, the snow is melting. It's sunny in about 45, 50. So that's warm for us, for our Colorado standards. So this will probably all melt by the end of the day. But, you know, it's still kind of hard if you got the wind and it's not at your back and it's only 50 and you're on some sort of this isolated interstate, and the next town that has services is Walsenburg, and that's like, you know, you still got to go another 25, 28 miles, and I don't care how great of an athlete you are, that's still a ride, and anything can happen for 25, 28 miles. And so anyway, so just thinking about that, and my friend Rick in Virginia, I remember he's a cyclist. He's a little older than me. He's, I don't know, he's in his 60s. I think he's retired. I'm not sure if he's retired, but he longs to bike across America. He may or may not go. And I've got a bunch of friends where, you know, I'm thinking most will probably not ever do it, that they won't pull it off. And that's not to judge them. I know they've got commitments and family, and they got a wife. I mean, nothing against wives, but sometimes it's hard to leave when you got a wife, or you got to take care of your wife or your kids or something, and or your parents, your aging parents. So anyway, he was so clear with me one time on Facebook. He just wrote, I think I posted something on Facebook, and I just said, you know, a little bit of a rough day, crosswinds, a little cold. I think it was in West Texas. It was when I got my second flat, and that was another mess. But, and so I posted something, and he replied, and he just said, Steve, make the most of every moment of your trip. He said something like that. And of course, I knew he was right, and I mean, it makes sense, you know? And yet still, when you're actually biking across America, it's like, it's hard to enjoy the moment, or every, you know, you can enjoy many moments, but then every moment, no, it's just not, that's not the way life is. By the way, that's the Spanish Peaks out there. Those are big, massive mountains. Beautiful. I climbed the peak on the left there. So there is a little convoy here of army vehicles. There's an army base, and occasionally they got these army vehicles. So it's kind of interesting. So anyway, so it's just that whole thing about, you know, did it really, was it a fairy tale? Because even now, I think of the few, I think of all the days, and I think of the good days, and I smile. I think of like people I met, restaurants I went to, towns that I loved, even just like some stores where I walked in and, you know, I was there for 10 minutes and had a good conversation. I remember all the good times, and I feel good. And then I can think about the bad, a few bad memories, bad days, and I kind of, you know, for me, I do I can remember the feelings, but I say all that to say, all these memories, good and bad, it's becoming more dull. And I look at my pictures and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember being happy that day, you know, or I remember being sad that day, but now it's becoming like, oh, it's all in the past, you know, I gotta live in the present, and, you know, that was a good day, oh yeah, that was a really bad day, but, you know, haha, it doesn't matter anymore, because it's 4 weeks later, you know, or 4 years later. And anyway, I'm just blabbing. Okay, got past that convoy. Don't want to mess with the US Army. So that's that. And I have adjusted. That's been kind of interesting. I should be getting a job pretty soon here. I've interviewed for a few jobs. I've actually turned down one where I knew they were going to offer me the job. I turned down one interview when they told me the salary. They told me the salary up front, and I was like, no, that's not enough. And but I got 2 more interviews with 2 new jobs in Colorado, and I'm suspecting I might take one of those 2 if it turns out well. So back to the grindstone of working, making money. And you see that sign? It said Walsenburg 19, Colorado City 36, and Pueblo 60. And I'll tell you something, that's when you bike across America. Oh!